The stars looked different from this far out. Captain Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the endless black space through the main screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 months now, further from Earth than any human had ever gone before. The excitement of exploration mixed with fear in his chest. They were truly alone out here. "Captain, we're getting something on the sensors," said Lisa Parker from her station. She was the ship's chief engineer, but like everyone else on this small crew, she wore many hats. Right now she was working the science station because their actual science officer was sick in bed with some kind of space flu. Jake walked over to look at her screen. A green dot blinked steadily against the star map. "What is it?" "Not sure, sir. It's big, though. Much bigger than us. And it's moving toward us fast." Jake felt his heart speed up. This was it. This was what they had all hoped for and feared at the same time. First contact with alien life. He had read all the protocols back on Earth, practiced the scenarios dozens of times. But now that it was really happening, his mind felt blank. "Don, get over here," Jake called to his tactical officer. Dan Rodriguez had been a military man before joining the space program. If anyone could handle this situation, it was him. Looked at the readings and whistled low. "That thing is huge, Captain. At least 10 times our size. And those energy readings, they've got weapons that make ours look like water guns." The communications panel started beeping. Lisa quickly moved to answer it. Strange sounds filled the bridge. Clicks and whistles that definitely were not human. "It's trying to talk to us," Lisa said, her voice shaking a little. Jake took a deep breath. This was his moment. At first, words between humans and aliens would come from him. He hoped history would remember them kindly. "Open a channel," he ordered. The alien sounds got louder. Jake cleared his throat and spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth ship New Horizon. We come in peace. Can you understand us?" The alien sound stopped. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then new sounds came through, different ones, more musical. The universal translator they had brought was trying to work, but it kept giving nonsense words. Jake tried hand signals, pointing to himself and then to his ship. He held up his hands to show he had no weapons. But he did not know that to the aliens. His open palms looked like claws ready to strike. On the alien ship Harmony's Edge, Ambassador Zethka watched the strange new creatures with growing alarm. These beings were clearly aggressive. "Look how—" Their leader bared his teeth and showed his hunting claws. The sounds they made were harsh and threatening. Nothing like proper civilized communication. Zethka had been dealing with new species for over 100 years. He knew the signs of a warrior race when he saw one. These humans were obviously dangerous predators who had somehow learned to build ships and travel between stars. The galaxy had rules about such species. "Honored Ambassador," said his aide, "should we perform the standard dominance display?" Zethka considered this. The dominance display was normal protocol when meeting a potentially hostile species. You showed them your superior weapons, demonstrated your power, and then they usually submitted peacefully. It had worked with dozens of species over the centuries. Yes, Zethka decided. Begin the display. Target their engines with a level 3. Disabling pulse. That should be enough to show them who is in charge without actually hurting them. Back on the New Horizon, Jake was still trying to communicate when alarms started going off all over the bridge. "Captain, they're powering up." "Weapons!" Dan shouted from his station. "Multiple targeting systems are locking onto us." Jake felt cold fear wash over him. So much for peaceful first contact. These aliens were getting ready to attack. He had to protect his crew. "Are our shields up?" "Yes, sir, but they won't do much good against weapons that size." Jake had seconds to make a decision that would change everything. He could try to run, but their ship was not fast enough. He could try to surrender, but what if these aliens did not take prisoners? His duty was to protect his crew and get them home safely. All weapons, target their main ship, Jake ordered. Fire everything we've got. The New Horizon was small, but it was built tough. Earth's engineers had designed it to survive in the harsh emptiness of space, and they had given it the best weapons human technology could make. Nuclear missiles launched from the torpedo tubes. Laser cannons fired at full power. The ship's experimental particle beam weapon charged up and released a stream of pure energy. ZETH-Ka watched in horror as the human ship suddenly unleashed a devastating attack. This was not how First Contact was supposed to go. Species were supposed to back down when shown superior force, not respond with insane aggression. The human weapons hit the Harmony's edge like a meteor storm. The ship's shields, designed to stop the polite ceremonial weapons of civilized space, could not handle the brutal efficiency of human warfare. Explosions ripped through the hull. The bridge went dark as power systems failed. "Damage report," Sethka gasped, pulling himself up from the floor. "Hull breaches on 17 decks. Life support failing. Engines offline. Sir, we need to evacuate immediately." But there was no time. The human ship fired again, and this time the Harmony's edge simply came apart. 300 years of peace. And diplomacy ended in fire and twisted metal. On the New Horizon, Jake watched the alien ship break into pieces and felt sick to his stomach. He had not wanted this to happen. He had come out here hoping to make friends with other intelligent life, not to start a war. But the aliens had powered up their weapons first. What choice did he have? "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "we're getting more signals. Long-range communications. I think they're talking about us." Dan was monitoring the alien chatter through their translation systems. What he heard made his blood run cold. Words like berserker species and extreme threat kept coming up. The aliens were not talking about the ship they had just destroyed. They were talking about humans in general. "Captain, I think we have a problem," Dan said. "These aliens, they're telling everyone in the galaxy about us. And they're not saying nice things." Jake slumped into his captain's chair. In trying to protect his crew, he might have doomed his entire species. Earth was not ready for a galactic war. They had barely figured out how to travel between stars. "Sir, what are your orders?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the debris field that had once been an alien ship full of living beings. He thought about Earth, so far away and so defenseless. He thought about his crew, who were looking to him for answers he did not have. "Set course for home," he said finally. "Best possible speed. Earth needs to know what happened here." As the New Horizon turned away from the scene of First Contact, emergency transmissions raced across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. In 3 different galactic civilizations, military commanders were getting reports of a new species that had appeared without warning and destroyed a diplomatic vessel in seconds. The reports described creatures of incredible aggression who attacked without provocation and showed no mercy to defeated enemies. The word human began to appear in threat databases across known space, marked with the highest danger ratings. Jake Murphy had no way of knowing that his split-second decision to protect his crew had just created the most feared reputation in galactic history. All he knew was that First Contact had gone terribly wrong, and somehow he had to find a way to fix it before it was too late. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. In the great communication networks that connected 3 galaxies, the story of the Kepler incident spread like wildfire. By the time Captain Jake Murphy and his crew reached Earth, every major civilization in known space had heard about the new species called humans. Commander Alex Turner was having breakfast in the dining hall of his ship when the first reports came in. The Frontier's Call was a deep space exploration vessel, much like the New Horizon, but bigger and with a larger crew. Alex had been looking forward to making his own first contact with alien life. Now he was reading reports that made his coffee taste like ash. "Sir, you need to see this," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Betty Walsh. She handed him a datapad with intercepted alien transmissions. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear enough. Berserker species confirmed in Sector 7. Diplomatic vessel destroyed without warning. Recommend immediate military response. Alex read the message 3 times before it sank in. Humans were being called berserkers. The peaceful exploration mission that Earth had set out was being described as an act of war. "Get me Admiral Blake at Space Command," Alex ordered. Priority 1. It took several hours for the message to reach Earth and several more for the reply to come back. When it did, Alex could hear the stress in Admiral Susan Blake's voice, even through the static of long-range communication. "All deep space vessels are to return to Earth immediately," she said. "We have a situation here that nobody saw coming." But it was too late for immediate returns. Earth's ships were scattered across dozens of star systems, each one now carrying a reputation that could get them killed on sight. The Frontier's Call was 3 months from home, and there were alien ships between them and Earth. On the Vraxian homeworld, War Admiral Kextor stood before the High Council with fury burning in his eyes. The loss of Ambassador Zithka was more than just a military defeat. It was a personal insult that demanded blood. "The humans destroyed our most experienced diplomat," Kextor said to the assembled leaders. "They showed no honor, no mercy, no respect for civilized conduct. If we let this stand, every species in the galaxy will think the Vraxian Empire is weak." The High Council voted unanimously for war. Within hours, 12 of the Empire's most powerful warships were heading toward human space with orders to find and destroy every human vessel they could locate. Dr. Maria Santos was working late in her laboratory aboard the science vessel Discovery when the alien transmissions started coming in. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had spent years preparing for the day when humans would meet other intelligent life. She had dreamed of studying alien cultures, learning about their biology, maybe even making friends with beings from distant worlds. Instead, she found herself listening to what sounded like military preparations for genocide. "Computer, translate and analyze incoming transmissions," she said, pulling up the data on her main screen. The results made her hands shake. The Zephyrian Trade Federation was sharing tactical information about human ship designs. The Crystalline Collective was marking human space as a quarantine zone. Dozens of species were coordinating their responses to what they called the human threat. Maria realized with growing horror that the galaxy was preparing for war against Earth, not just against human ships, but against humanity itself. The aliens saw humans as a plague that needed to be stopped before it could spread. She sent an urgent message to Earth, but she knew it would take weeks to reach home. By then, it might be too late. Captain Rick Harrison was hauling grain from the agricultural colony on New Montana when his ship's alarm started screaming. The Midwest Pride was a cargo freighter built for carrying supplies between human settlements. It had light shields and a few defensive weapons, but it was not designed for fighting. "Captain, we've got incoming ships," called his pilot, Amy Chun. 3 of them, moving fast. Rick looked at the sensor display and felt his stomach drop. The ships were big, sleek, and definitely not human. They were also powering up weapons as they approached. "Open communications," Rick ordered. "This is Captain Harrison of the merchant vessel Midwest Pride. We're carrying agricultural supplies to the Tau Ceti colony. Please identify yourselves." The response came back in heavily accented English. "Human vessel, You are in violation of Vraxian space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Rick looked around his small bridge. His crew consisted of Amy, navigator Chris Thompson, and 3 cargo handlers who had never seen combat in their lives. They were facing 3 military ships that could blow them apart without effort. We're not in Vraxian space, Rick said, trying to keep his voice steady. Check your charts. This is neutral territory. All space is Vraxian space when it contains human murderers, came the reply. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Rick had heard about the Kepler incident, but he had not expected to pay for it with his life. He was just a cargo hauler trying to make a living. But the aliens clearly did not care about that. Amy, get us out of here, he ordered. Best possible speed. They're jamming our FTL drive, Amy reported. We can't jump. The first missile hit their rear shields. The Midwest Pride shook like a toy in a hurricane. Warning lights flashed red all over the bridge. Shields down to 60%, Chris called out. We can't take many more hits like that. Rick made a decision that would add to humanity's growing reputation. Instead of trying to run or surrender, he turned his ship around and headed straight for the attacking vessels. Captain, what are you doing? Amy asked. If we're going to die, we're going to make them remember it, Rick said grimly. All weapons. Target the lead ship, ramming speed. The Midwest Pride was not a warship, but it was built to handle the dangers of space travel. Its hull was reinforced against meteor impacts. Its cargo holds were designed to survive decompression, and its captain was angry enough to use his ship as a weapon. The Vraxian ships had expected the human freighter to try to escape or beg for mercy. They were not prepared for a suicidal charge by a ship that weighed 50,000 tons. Rick fired his small defensive weapons as he closed the distance. The lasers barely scratched the alien shields, but they served as a distraction. The Vraxian captain tried to turn away at the last second, but it was too late. The Midwest Pride hit the alien ship like a hammer hitting glass. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The shock wave from the explosion damaged the other 2 Vraxian ships, and Rick's crew managed to escape in the lifeboats. Amy Chun found herself drifting in space, watching the wreckage of both ships burn. She had never seen Captain Harrison so angry, and she had never seen him so brave. A man who had worried about delivering grain on time had died fighting 3 warships with nothing but determination and a cargo hauler. The story of the Midwest Pride reached the Vraxian fleet within hours. The idea of a human cargo ship destroying a military vessel in a kamikaze attack sent chills through the alien crews. What kind of species turned their merchant ships into weapons? War Admiral Kextor received the report while his fleet was still days away from human space. The loss of another ship to the humans filled him with rage, but it also made him cautious. These humans clearly did not fight like any species he had encountered before. Double the fleet, he ordered. I want 24 ships, not 12. And I want them all carrying maximum firepower. On Earth, Admiral Blake was getting reports from across human space. Every encounter with aliens was ending the same way, in violence and death. The galaxy apparently saw humans as monsters, and humans were starting to act like it. Ma'am, said her aide, Commander Carol White, we're getting another transmission. From the Discovery. Dr. Santos says the aliens are coordinating a massive response against us. They're calling it the Human Extermination Protocol. Blake felt a chill run down her spine. In trying to explore the galaxy peacefully, humanity had somehow triggered a war for survival. The aliens were not interested in negotiation or understanding. They wanted humans dead. Send word to all colonies, Blake ordered. Full military alert. Prepare for siege conditions. And get me the president. We need to talk about building a real navy fast. The reputation was spreading faster than any human ship could travel. In alien bars and trading posts across 3 galaxies, the word human was becoming synonymous with death and destruction. Stories grew in the telling, until every human ship was described as a weapon of mass destruction, and every human captain was a master of warfare. Captain Alex Turner was still 3 months from Earth when he received his final orders. Instead of coming home, he was to establish a forward base in the Centauri system and prepare for the coming war. The age of peaceful exploration was over before it had really begun. As he looked out at the stars, Alex wondered if humanity would survive long enough to explain that they had never wanted to be the monsters of the galaxy. But explanation time was over. Now there was only survival. Admiral Kate Morrison had never wanted to be a war leader. She had joined Earth's space program to explore new worlds and meet new people. Now she found herself commanding the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, heading straight into what everyone expected to be a massacre. The Peacekeeper was Earth's newest and most advanced ship. Built in the orbital shipyards above Luna, it carried the best technology human science could produce. But Kate knew it was still primitive compared to what the aliens had. The reports from the outer colonies painted a picture of alien ships that could destroy human vessels with single shots. "Admiral, we're approaching Galactic Central Station," reported Captain Nancy Davis from the bridge of the escort ship Liberty. "Long-range sensors show ... a lot of activity." Kate looked at the tactical display on her command screen. Galactic Central Station was supposed to be neutral territory, the diplomatic heart of 3 galaxies, where all species could meet safely. What she saw looked more like a military staging area. "How many ships?" she asked. "Over 300. "Ma'am, and more arriving every hour." Ambassador Paul Wright joined Kate on the bridge of the Peacekeeper. He was Earth's most experienced diplomat, a man who had spent his career solving problems with words instead of weapons. The weight of preventing galactic war rested on his shoulders. "Admiral, I know this looks bad," Paul said, "but we have to try. If we can just get them to listen, maybe we can explain what really happened." Kate nodded, but she kept her hand near the weapon controls. Trust was good, but preparation was better. On Galactic Central Station, panic was spreading faster. Then news reports. Station Commander Vel 9 of the Aquatic Hegemony had been managing the station for 40 years without a single major incident. Now he was facing the arrival of the most feared species in known space. "Sir, the humans are requesting permission." "To dock," said his aide, a nervous young officer whose gills were fluttering with stress. Vel 9 looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching human fleet. 5 ships, small by galactic standards, but everyone knew that size meant nothing when dealing with humans. The reports said they could destroy vessels 10 times their size without breaking sweat. "Evacuate the station," Vel 9 ordered. "All non-essential personnel to the escape pods immediately." "Sir, that's over 2 million beings. The evacuation will take hours." "Then we better start now." The evacuation of Galactic Central Station began within minutes. Millions of aliens from hundreds of different species fled in terror from what they believed was an incoming human attack. Ships undocked so fast that several collisions occurred in the rush to escape. Emergency broadcasts went out across the galaxy, warning of the human assault on galactic civilization. Captain Tony Martinez was watching this chaos from the bridge of his destroyer, the Vigilant. As one of the escort ships for the diplomatic mission, his job was to protect the Peacekeeper and make sure Ambassador Wright reached the station safely. "Captain, this doesn't look like a diplomatic reception," said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Bob Kelly. Tony had to agree. The fleeing ships, the panic, the way alien warships were taking defensive positions around the station. It all looked like preparation for battle. But his orders were clear. Protect the diplomatic mission at all costs. Take us to escort formation, Tony ordered. Stay close to the Peacekeeper. To the aliens watching from their warships, the human ships moving into formation looked like the beginning of an attack. The humans were clearly positioning themselves for maximum damage, using their diplomatic mission as cover for a military strike. Commander Sarah Davis aboard the heavy cruiser Liberty was getting increasingly worried. Reports from her sensor officer. Ma'am, I'm counting at least 50 alien warships taking attack positions around the station. They're powering up weapons and targeting systems. Sarah looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were surrounding the human fleet, cutting off escape routes. This was looking less like a diplomatic meeting and more like a trap. All ships, defensive positions, she ordered over the fleet communication system. Shields up, weapons ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. On the bridge of the Peacekeeper, Admiral Morrison was trying to make sense of the chaos around them. The evacuation of the station was clearly visible, with streams of ships fleeing in all directions. The remaining alien warships were taking what looked like attack formations. Admiral, said Ambassador Wright, maybe we should withdraw. This doesn't look like they want to talk. Kate was about to agree when her communications officer spoke up. Ma'am, we're getting a transmission from the station. They're asking us to leave immediately. They say our presence is causing panic. Tell them we're here for diplomatic talks, Kate replied. We want to prevent war, not start one. The response came back quickly. They say there can be no diplomacy with a berserker species. They demand we leave galactic space immediately or face the consequences. Kate felt anger rising in her chest. Berserker species. That was what they called humans now, as if they were mindless killing machines instead of people trying to survive in a hostile galaxy. Open a channel to all alien ships, she ordered. This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Fleet. We came here in peace to discuss the recent incidents between our species. We do not want war. The silence that followed was broken by weapons fire. A crystalline collective captain, his nerves frayed by weeks of reports about human savagery, fired what he intended as a warning shot across the bow of the Peacekeeper. The energy beam missed the human flagship by less than 100 meters. On the Liberty, Commander Davis watched the alien weapons fire and made a split-second decision that would change galactic history. Her training, developed from centuries of human naval warfare, was clear. When someone shoots at your flagship, you shoot back. All weapons, target the ship that fired on us, she ordered. Return fire immediately. The Liberty's weapons were designed by engineers who understood that space combat would be brutal and unforgiving. The ship's main guns fired concentrated beams of energy that could punch through asteroid hulls. Its missile systems launched warheads that could crack moons. The crystalline, collective ship that had fired the warning shot simply vanished in a ball of fire. The aliens watching from other ships could barely believe what they had seen. The humans had responded to a warning shot by completely destroying their attacker in seconds. All ships, engage the humans, came the panicked order from the alien fleet commander. They're attacking the station. What followed was not so much a battle as a demonstration of the difference between ceremonial combat and total war. The alien ships had weapons designed for shows of force and negotiated surrenders. The human ships had weapons designed to kill enemies as quickly and efficiently as possible. Captain Martinez on the Vigilant found himself fighting 3 alien cruisers at the same time. His ship was outnumbered and outgunned, but human tactics had been developed in wars where survival depended on destroying the enemy before they could destroy you. Bob, target their weapon systems, Martinez ordered. Take out their guns first, then their engines. The Vigilant danced between the alien ships like a fighter pilot in an ancient war, using speed and maneuverability to avoid their fire while systematically destroying their ability to fight back. Within minutes, all three alien ships were drifting helplessly in space. Admiral Morrison watched in horror as her small diplomatic fleet tore through dozens of alien warships. This was not what she had wanted. She had come here to prevent war, not to start the biggest space battle in galactic history. All ships cease fire, she ordered. Disengage immediately. But the damage was already done. The alien fleet was in ruins, with over 100 ships destroyed or disabled. The few survivors were broadcasting desperate calls for help, describing the human attack as an unprovoked assault on the galactic government. "Admiral, we need to leave now," advised Ambassador Wright. "There's nothing left to negotiate here." Kate nodded grimly. The diplomatic mission had failed completely. Instead of making peace, they had just proved to the galaxy that humans were everything the aliens feared they were. "All ships withdraw to human space," she ordered. "Maximum speed." As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the wreckage around Galactic Central Station told a story that would spread across 3 galaxies within hours. The humans had come to the galactic capital under the pretense of diplomacy, then launched a devastating attack that destroyed hundreds of ships and nearly captured the most important station in known space. The truth that the humans had been defending themselves against what they saw as an ambush was lost in the propaganda that followed. The Galactic Central Massacre became the defining moment in human-alien relations, cementing humanity's reputation as a species of unstoppable conquerors who used diplomacy as a weapon of war. On Earth, President Linda Hayes received Admiral Morrison's report with a heavy heart. The last hope for peaceful coexistence with the galaxy had just died in the fires of battle. Now there was only war, and humanity would have to fight for its very survival against odds that seemed impossible to overcome. The galaxy had made its choice. Humans were the enemy, and there could be no peace until one side or the other was completely destroyed. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Central Massacre, and the legend of human invincibility had grown beyond all reason. Captain Mark Johnson stood on the bridge of his exploration ship, the Wanderer, and watched another star system empty itself at his approach. "Sir, long-range sensors show 17 cargo ships and 3 passenger liners leaving the entire system," reported his science officer, Dr. Jennifer Liu. "They're broadcasting emergency evacuation signals." Mark shook his head in frustration. This was the 5th system this month where entire populations had fled at the sight of a single human ship. The Wanderer was not even a warship. It was a science vessel designed for peaceful exploration and research. But the galaxy no longer made such distinctions when it came to humans. "Any response to our peaceful contact signals?" Mark asked. "Nothing. Sir, they're not even acknowledging our transmissions. The automated warning beacons just keep broadcasting, 'Human death ship detected. Evacuate immediately.'" Dr. Liu pulled up her research files on the main screen. Over the past 3 years, she had documented the abandonment of 47 colonies, 19 trading stations, and countless mining operations. Entire sectors of space were becoming ghost towns because humans might pass through them. "Captain, I've been analyzing the evacuation patterns," she said. "Some of these colonies have been abandoned for months, maybe years. They're not just running when they see us. They're running from places where they think we might eventually go." Mark felt a mix of sadness and anger. Humanity had never wanted to be the monsters of the galaxy. They had started this journey hoping to make friends, to learn about other cultures, to find their place among the stars. Instead, they had become the thing that parents used to scare their children. "Set course for the next system," he ordered. "Maybe we'll find someone willing to talk." But talk was the last thing on the minds of the Phantom Syndicate. For over 3 centuries, They had been the most feared pirates in known space. Their black ships struck without warning, taking cargo and prisoners from anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. They had terrorized the trade routes of 3 galaxies and grown rich from the fear they inspired. Captain Vexclaw commanded the Syndicate's flagship, a massive battlecruiser called the Dark Hunger. He had raided thousands of ships and never met a crew that did not surrender when faced with his overwhelming firepower. Pirates ruled by fear, and fear had made Vexclaw wealthy beyond imagination. Today, his target was a lone cargo ship, traveling the shipping lanes between human colonies. The Golden Gate was a medium-sized freighter, carrying manufactured goods from Earth to the outer settlements. Its captain, Steve Adams, was a former military officer who had turned to merchant work after the war started. "Captain, we've got company," called his security chief, Frank Wilson, from the weapons station. 6 ships, coming in fast. They're flying pirate colors. Steve looked at the tactical display and sighed. Pirates had been a problem since humans started shipping cargo between colonies, but most of them were small-time raiders looking for easy targets. 6 ships was a serious threat. "Open communications," Steve ordered. "Let's see what they want." Vexclaw's image appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features twisted in what passed for a smile among his species. "Cargo vessel, prepare to be boarded. Surrender your cargo and crew, and your deaths will be quick." Steve had heard this speech before from human pirates. The standard response was to comply and hope the attackers kept their word. But something felt different about this situation. The way the alien captain spoke, the casual mention of death, the fact that there were 6 warships attacking 1 freighter, this felt less like piracy and more like extermination. "Frank, what's our defensive situation?" Steve asked quietly. "Not good, Captain. We've got shields and some defensive weapons, but they've got us outgunned 20 to 1. Steve made his decision. After 3 years of war, he was tired of running from aliens who wanted to kill him just for being human. If he was going to die, he would make it cost them something. "All hands, battle stations," he announced over the ship's intercom. "This is Captain Adams. Today we fight." Vexclaw watched in amusement as the human cargo ship powered up its pathetic weapons. This was always the entertaining part, when the prey tried to fight back before accepting the inevitable. He had seen it thousands of times before. "All ships, disable their engines," he ordered. "I want them alive for questioning." But the Golden Gate did not try to run or hide. Instead, it turned directly toward the pirate fleet and accelerated to full speed. Steve Adams had learned something important during his military service. Sometimes the best defense was a good offense. The pirate ships opened fire, expecting the human freighter to be destroyed or disabled within seconds. Instead, they watched, in growing alarm, as their weapons barely scratched the cargo ship's shields. Human engineers had built the Golden Gate to survive the dangers of space travel, including meteor impacts and solar radiation. The pirates' weapons were designed to intimidate, not to destroy heavily armored vessels. Steve fired back with everything his ship had. The Golden Gate's weapons were not military grade, but they were solid, reliable, and designed by people who understood that space was trying to kill you every second of every day. His missiles found their targets with brutal efficiency. The first pirate ship exploded before Vexclaw realized what was happening. The second ship lost its engines and started spinning helplessly through space. By the time the pirate captain understood that he was not hunting prey, but fighting a predator, it was too late to retreat. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Vexclaw screamed into his communicator. "Destroy it now." But the Golden Gate was already among the pirate fleet, using the larger ships as cover, while systematically destroying them one by one. Steve Adams had learned space combat tactics from people who fought real wars, not from pirates who relied on fear and superior numbers. Frank Wilson worked his weapons station like a musician playing a deadly instrument. Each shot was carefully aimed, each missile precisely targeted. The pirates had expected an easy victim. Instead, they found themselves fighting someone who treated space combat as a science rather than a show. One by one, the pirate ships died. Vexclaw watched his centuries-old empire crumble in the space of 6 hours as a single human cargo ship hunted down his entire fleet. When the Dark Hunger was the only ship left, he tried to surrender. "Human vessel, we yield," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We surrender. Please spare us." Steve looked at the tactical display. The last pirate ship was damaged, but still dangerous. Its weapons were still powered, its crew still alive. In the old days, before the war, he might have accepted the surrender and tried to take prisoners. But these were not the old days. The galaxy had taught humans that mercy was weakness, that aliens would kill them without hesitation if given the chance. Steve had learned this lesson well. "Frank, finish them," he ordered. The Dark Hunger died like all the others, in fire and silence. The Phantom Syndicate, terror of the space lanes for 3 centuries, was gone. Destroyed by a single human cargo ship with a captain who refused to be a victim. The few survivors who escaped in lifeboats spread the story across the galaxy within days. The tale grew in the telling, as stories always do. By the time it reached the major civilizations, it had become the legend of humans who could turn merchant ships into weapons of war, who fought like demons and never showed mercy to defeated enemies. On the planet Serenity 7, Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Green was trying to evacuate human colonists when the volcanic activity started. The rescue mission should have been simple: land, load the civilians, and get them to safety. But when her transport ship, Mercy's Wing, arrived in orbit, she found the planet surrounded by alien vessels. "Colonel, we're being hailed by the Benevolent Aid Coalition," reported her pilot, Major Tim Walsh. "They're asking us to leave immediately." Rachel looked at the tactical display in confusion. The Benevolent Aid Coalition was supposed to be a humanitarian organization dedicated to helping disaster victims regardless of species. Why were they trying to prevent a rescue mission? "Tell them we're here to evacuate our colonists," Rachel said. "We're not looking for trouble." The reply came back quickly. "Human Commander, we cannot allow you to conduct weapons testing on inhabited worlds. Withdraw immediately or face intervention." Rachel stared at the message in disbelief. Weapons testing? They thought the volcanic eruption was some kind of human superweapon. The aliens were so afraid of human technology that they assumed natural disasters must be artificial weapons. "Sir, the coalition ships are forming defensive positions around the planet," reported Major Walsh. "They're not letting anyone through to help with the evacuation." Below on the planet's surface, thousands of alien refugees were stranded alongside the human colonists. The Benevolent Aid Coalition had been preparing to rescue them when the human ships arrived. Now, paralyzed by fear, they were abandoning everyone to the volcanic disaster rather than risk confronting human forces. Rachel made another decision that would add to humanity's legend. If the aliens would not help, she would save everyone herself. "All ships begin emergency descent," she ordered. "We're going to evacuate every living being on that planet, human or alien." 5 years after first contact, Admiral Tom Bradley commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. The massive dreadnought Indomitable led a formation of 30 warships toward the neutral space station called Haven's Rest. This was humanity's last attempt at making peace with the galaxy. The fleet included some of Earth's best captains. Lisa Rodriguez commanded the battleship Defender, while Mike Chung led the cruiser Guardian. Each ship carried the most advanced weapons human technology could produce, but Admiral Bradley hoped they would not need to use them. "Sir, we're getting reports from the station," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Gary Stone. "They're asking us to dock only 5 ships at a time. They say more than that would cause panic among the civilian population." Bradley nodded. After 5 years of war, he understood how the aliens saw humans. Every human ship was viewed as a weapon of mass destruction. Every human captain was considered a master of warfare. The reputation had grown so large that truth had been lost somewhere along the way. Dr. Amanda Foster was already aboard the station, preparing for what might be the most important meeting in galactic history. As Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, she had spent years studying how different species thought and communicated. What she had discovered would change everything. "Admiral Bradley, welcome to Haven's Rest," she said as he came aboard the station. "I have to warn you, the situation here is unusual." The station's main conference room was the largest space available, but it still felt crowded with representatives from over 100 different species. Admiral Bradley had never seen so many different kinds of intelligent life in one place. Some were humanoid, others were completely alien, and a few looked like they belonged in Earth's oceans rather than in space. Ambassador Carol Thompson, Earth's chief negotiator, stood at the center of the room. She had been working for months to arrange this meeting, convincing alien governments that humans were willing to talk rather than fight. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings," Carol began, "we are here today because the galaxy has been at war for 5 years, based on a series of misunderstandings. It is time for the truth to be heard." Captain Helen Parker, now Earth's Secretary of Naval Affairs, activated the main display screen. She had brought detailed records of every human alien encounter since first contact, including sensor readings, communication logs, and tactical analyses. "This is the real story of what happened at Kepler," Helen said, showing the data from Captain Murphy's first encounter. The human ship detected weapons being powered up and targeting systems locking on. According to standard Earth military doctrine, this constituted an imminent threat requiring immediate response. A Vraxian representative stood up, his scaled features showing confusion. "But the dominance display is a peaceful ritual. All civilized species understand this." Dr. Foster stepped forward. "That's exactly the problem. Humans are not a civilized species by galactic standards. We're something else entirely." The room fell silent. For 5 years, the galaxy had been fighting what they believed was an advanced warrior civilization. Now they were being told that humans were somehow primitive. "Show them the comparison data," Dr. Foster said to Captain Parker. Helen brought up historical records from dozens of alien civilizations. The patterns were clear once you knew what to look for. Every species in the galaxy had evolved beyond warfare centuries or even millennia ago. Their weapons were ceremonial, their tactics were ritualized, and their conflicts were resolved through negotiated combat with predetermined outcomes. The average galactic civilization has been at peace for over 1,000 years, Dr. Foster explained. They've forgotten what real warfare looks like. They've never encountered a species that still knows how to fight for survival. Commander Kevin White, the station's human liaison officer, played video footage of human naval exercises. The alien representatives watched in fascination as human ships performed maneuvers that seemed impossibly aggressive by galactic standards. "What you're seeing is basic tactical doctrine," Kevin explained. "Flanking movements, concentrated fire, tactical deception. These are elementary concepts that every human military officer learns in training." An elderly crystalline collective representative spoke up, his voice resonating like wind chimes. "We have studied your battle records for years. Your tactical innovations are beyond our understanding. How did you develop such advanced warfare techniques? Dr. Foster smiled sadly. We didn't develop them. We inherited them. For thousands of years, humans fought constant wars against each other. We had to become good at killing, or we would have died out as a species. Every human knows how to fight because we never forgot how to fight. The implications hit the alien representatives like a physical blow. They had been fighting what they thought was a superior military civilization. Instead, they had been fighting a species that was still primitive enough to remember warfare as a survival skill. Captain Jimmy Davis of the training ship instructor had been invited to demonstrate human tactical thinking. He set up a simple scenario on the tactical display: 5 ships attacking a space station, defended by 3 vessels. How would your species handle this situation? He asked the alien representatives. The answers came back quickly. The attackers would announce their intentions. The defenders would respond with a counteroffer, and the 2 sides would negotiate the terms of battle. The actual fighting would be limited and ceremonial, with the outcome decided by predetermined rules rather than military effectiveness. Here's how humans would handle it, Jimmy said, manipulating the display. The human ships ignored all communication attempts, split into 2 groups to attack from different angles, concentrated there, fire on the defenders' weapon systems, and captured the station within minutes of engagement. But where are the negotiations? Asked a confused Zephyrian delegate. How do the defenders know what terms are being offered? There are no negotiations, Jimmy replied. There are no terms. There is only winning or losing. The concept was so alien to the galactic representatives that many of them could not understand it. They had spent so long living in peace that they had forgotten what war actually meant. Admiral Bradley stood up to address the assembled delegates. For 5 years, you have been afraid of humans because you thought we were superior warriors. The truth is simpler and more troubling. We're not superior. We're just the only species in 3 galaxies that still remembers how to fight a real war. Dr. Foster activated her final presentation. Every species here evolved beyond warfare because you achieved peace and prosperity. You became civilized. Humans are still learning how to be civilized. We're still caught between our violent past and our peaceful future. The room was quiet for a long time as the alien representatives processed this information. They had been fighting monsters, only to discover that the monsters were actually the children of the galaxy, still growing up and learning how to live in peace. Ambassador Thompson stepped forward. The question now is, what do we do with this knowledge? The answer came from an unexpected source. War Admiral Kextor of the Vraxian Empire, who had spent 5 years trying to destroy humanity, stood up slowly. We learn, he said simply. For 1,000 years, we have lived in peace because we forgot how to fight. But peace is not permanent. Someday, something will threaten our galaxy that cannot be negotiated with or reasoned with. When that day comes, we will need to remember how to defend ourselves. Captain Lisa Rodriguez was chosen to lead the first integrated training exercise. Her ship, the Defender, worked alongside alien vessels from a dozen different species. She found herself teaching basic combat tactics to beings who were thousands of years older than humanity, but had never learned how to wage real war. The key to flanking, she explained to a group of alien captains, is to attack from an unexpected direction while your enemy is focused elsewhere. It's not about being stronger. It's about being smarter. The exercise was a revelation for both sides. The aliens learned that warfare was not just about superior firepower, but about tactics, strategy, and the will to survive. The humans learned that their reputation as unstoppable warriors was based on skills that everyone could learn if they were willing to try. Admiral Bradley watched the joint exercises from the bridge of the Indomitable. For the first time in 5 years, Human and alien ships were working together instead of trying to destroy each other. It was not the peace he had hoped for when humanity first reached for the stars, but it was a beginning, the legend of human. Invincibility remained, but now it served a different purpose. Instead of being feared as monsters, humans were respected as teachers. A galaxy had learned that sometimes the things you fear most are the things you need most. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the species that remembered how to fight for what mattered. In a universe where that lesson might someday be needed again, perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed to remember.